Good evening.
Good evening.
Shabbat Shalom. It's a pleasure to see all of you here with us in person here at Kol Hadash and also those online at virtual Kol Hadash. It's always a pleasure to be able to celebrate Shabbat together. I hope you had a wonderful Passover celebration last week, or in some cases this past weekend. We did at the congregation, as we usually do at Bluegrass. About 70 people came for that celebration, but Passover was observed in many different ways in many different homes. And so we'll be talking a little bit about why we celebrate Passover in the first place and how we do it, what makes meaning for us out of that celebration a little bit later tonight. But since we are in spring and it seems like the buds are opening and my allergies are opening and the sun is more present, we want to be ready and open for this season of rebirth. And so the theme of our Shabbat service tonight is appropriately openness. And so we'll begin on page 1. And for those online, I will share a digital copy of the service. If you just take 1 second, there we go. And we'll start with our Nigun Bim Bam, which is an easy way to feel connected to each other by simply singing together. The words Bim and Bam don't mean anything. Shabbat Shalom is wishing each other a peaceful time of stop and rest. But most importantly, the fact is that we sing together. It helps us connect to each other. So as you feel comfortable, please join me in Bim Bam. Bim Bam, Bim 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 Bam, Bim 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 Bam. Bim Bam, Bim 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 Bam, Bim 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 Bam. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Bim Bam, Bim 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 Bam, Bim 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 Bam. Hum. This poem, Shabbat Moment by Marge Piercy, is a wonderful entry into a place of sheket v'shalom, of quiet and of peace. And so at the conclusion of this poem, I will simply stop and we will pause for a moment of quiet reflection to breathe. If you choose to close your eyes, you're welcome to do so. Most importantly, to simply feel being together. Shabbat Moment. A scarf trailing over the lilac sunset, fair weather clouds, cirrus uncinus, silk chiffon. Twilight softens the air, whispering, "Come, lie down with me." Untie the knots of the will. Loosen your clenched grip, barren hills of bone. Here, no edges to hone, only the palm fallen open as a rose about to toss its petals. What you have made, what you have spoiled, let go. Let twilight empty the crowded rooms, quiet the jostling colors to hues of swirling water, pearls of fog. This is the time for letting go, like a released balloon dwindling. Tilt your neck and let your face open to the sky like a pond catching light, drinking the darkness. As we return to speech and verbal connection, we partake of the traditional Jewish symbol of the lighting of Shabbat candles, which for us symbolizes the light of inspiration and enlightenment, but also the warmth of community and connection. And to light our Shabbat candles this evening, I would like to invite principal people in the two organizations that are hosting our Shabbat this evening. I would like to invite Elaine Baer and Judy Rosenzweig. Please come forward as we sing Baruch HaOr, Let Us Light These Lights.
Let us light these lights and see the way to joy, and let us say Simcha. Let us light these lights and see the way to joy, love, and let us say Ahava. Let us light these lights and see the way to peace, and let us say Shalom. Let us light these lights and see the way to peace, and let us say Shalom. And let us say Shalom.
How many people only drink one kind of wine? There are some. But many of us who enjoy the fruit of the vine and all its many permutations like the idea of trying something new, of exploring. After all, that's how wine began. Someone found that if they took that grape, that fruit, and pressed it into juice, it would taste differently. And then if they let that sit and wait, it would taste differently. And if they waited longer, it would taste differently. It was all a process of discovery. It was the result of openness to new ideas, new experiences, new flavors that gave us today all these wonderful varieties of the fruit of the vine. And so this evening, I will sing our Kiddush in Hebrew. You're welcome to join me if you know the melody. And then we'll say the English all together. Savri Maranan Rabbanan De'etmo Kadshenu al Hayayin Savri Maranan Rabbanan De'hayom Baruchim Borei Pri Hagafen Hashabat Mesamchenu Hashabat Merapenu Legufotenu Lenafshotenu Hashabat Meashrenu Baruchim Hashomrim et Yom HaShabbat. In English, the rabbis and sages of old proclaimed, we sanctify this wine. The rabbis and sages of today proclaim, blessed is the fruit of the vine. The Shabbat makes us joyful. The Shabbat heals us in body and in spirit. The Shabbat enriches us. Blessed are those who keep the Shabbat. L'chaim, l'chaim, to life. Either you will go through this door, or you will not go through. If you go through, there is always the risk of remembering your name. Things look at you doubly, and you must look back and let them happen. If you do not go through, it is possible to live worthily, to maintain your attitudes, to hold your position, to die bravely. But much will blind you, much will evade you. At what cost, who knows? The door itself makes no promises. It is only a door.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה la 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 la. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Whatever we behold in the natural world of flowers, mountains, and oceans, and in the human world of buildings, poetry, and morality, we who locate our spirituality entirely within the human mind may be all the more appreciative of that mind's power. Aware that beauty enriches our lives, evokes the most powerful emotions, and inspires the noblest ambitions, aware, that is, that beauty causes the spirit to soar, we naturally wish to cultivate beauty and the appreciation of beauty in our lives and family and community. It is clear that, absent belief in God, you are nevertheless a spiritual person, unless you have no use for music, literature, drama, or dance, unless you are oblivious to the genius of Shakespeare and Chopin and the talent of Michael Jordan, unless you are indifferent to the majesty of a mountain range or the spectacle of a starry sky. It is clear that your spirituality derives entirely from within you. It is clear that each of us imposes our notions of beauty upon mountains and upon men. That is our greatness.
Achi Adam Artzi Olam Dati Ofi Achi Adam Artzi
Gratitude. Grateful I am as I awake each morning, drawing upwards, sleep breaking about my head, as I fill my lungs with wakefulness. Grateful I am alive. Why this is so puzzles me, being in sound health and years away from the numbers of my death. Am I morbid of living, some Freud substitute? Is this the wages of secular sin obsessed? But I am silent and left only with gratitude, gifted now to each moment, and especially each flower.
Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar ma'od, gesher tzar ma'od, gesher tzar ma'od. Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar ma'od, gesher tzar ma'od. V'haikar, lo lafached, lo lafached klal. V'haikar, lo lafached klal. V'haikar, lo lafached, lo lafached klal. V'haikar, lo lafached klal.
The power of accident. Someone laid the petals in the big dictionary again. We always do that, placing such things in heavy books, wishing to hold what we know will inevitably pass. But have you noticed how perfectly they were located, pressed there between metalwork and meter, directly under metaphor? Surely that is what they are now. Their luminous bodies and lustrous flesh have gone where summers go, and only the veins remain as testament to the sweet sap that ran with the solstice. But I will bet that it was just chance that defined those petals so well. Chance can set things right. I mean, look at us, what we are, how we met in the deep waters between metalwork and meter, and then how we have come to cleave together, tighter than the weave woven of the shadows in the woods, thicker than the juices that run through all the golden veins of summer.
Shima'u, Shima'u, Ahave, Ahava, Kira'u, Kira'u, Moshiach, Yeshua, Ki Yeshua, Bali, Ahava, O Ahava, came to he. O Ahava, came to he.
Death needs courage. It is so overwhelmingly final that it fills our lives with dread and anxious fear. When it arrives at the end of a long and happy life, it is never welcome, yet not deeply resented. But when it comes too soon, invading young lives, disrupting hopes and dreams, it adds anger to our fear. We cry out at the injustice of destiny and wait for answers that never seem to come. Courage is the power to confront a world that is not always fair. It is the refusal to beg for what will never be given. It is the willingness to accept what cannot be changed. Courage is loving life even in the face of death. It is sharing our strength with others even when we feel weak. It is embracing our family and friends even when we fear to lose them. It is opening ourselves to love even for the last time. Courage is self-esteem. It prefers quiet determination to whining. It prefers doing to waiting. It affirms that exits, like entrances, have their own dignity. If you're comfortable standing, could I ask you to stand for just a moment? In our community, once each month, when we gather for Shabbat, we pause to reflect on the power of memory and share the names of those of our extended circle of loved ones whose yahrzeit or anniversary of their death occurs in this season. And so tonight we remember with great love Bernice Aaron, Dorian Shalom, Garrett Cohn, Edward Dorfman, Richard Dreyfus, Nathan Eichner, Joanne Friedlander, Phyllis Gerberding, Rella Harris, Seema Hefter, Ray Holtzberg, Gerald Kane, Jerry Kane, Robert Cass, William Corr, Morris Lambert, Louis J. Moses, Rita Muroff, Mary Winandy Parker, Bert Passeltiner, Aaron Pashko, Lorna Felser, Norman Platnick, Nancy Rose, Evelyn Rosen, Abe Rosenzweig, Theodosia Sieber, Nancy Schaefer, Leonard Shepard, Rosalind Simon, Sheldon Citrick, Miriam Citrick, Philip Citrick, Louis Sonshine, Alice Tibbetts, and Molly Yolen. If there are any other names that those here this evening would like to remember or those online would like to share, please feel free to speak them out loud or type them into the chat at this time.
Larry Whitson, Julie White, Lori Lusbader Ashworth,
Tim Tatterman, Ronald Morris, Art Davidson,
Let us pause then for a moment of silent tribute in their memory and in memory of all of our loved ones. In Jewish life, we say, Zecher Tzadikim Livracha, the memory of good people is a blessing to us. Please be seated as these words are sung.
Zecher Tzadikim Livracha, Zecher Tzadikim
Well, to my left is our congregational menorah. Its 7 lights remind us of the 7 days of the week and also of the menorah that once stood at the temple in Jerusalem that you can see an image of in the Arch of Titus in Rome or on the seal of the modern state of Israel. Its many lights remind us of the many things going on in our lives, but also connect us to each other. In the Unitarian tradition, they light candles of what they call joys and concerns. And so we've adapted that to Jewish life by calling it simcha and suris. Simchas are joys, suris is difficulty. It's a chance to light a candle in celebration of something wonderful in your life or the life of someone you care about, or a candle in concern for someone facing an illness or difficult time, or perhaps a candle of memory for someone whose absence strikes you in this season. This is also open to those online, of course. I'm happy to either recognize you, to unmute, and to share the reason for lighting a candle, or to type in the chat, and I'll share that with those here and light the candle on your behalf, since Zoom hasn't yet figured out how to light a candle from somewhere else. So I'll do that manually, but otherwise we can share that way. And Ron and Tamar, please.
So first was listening to when he was listening. I was listening to the touchdown for the spacecraft, and I think space travel is just amazing. So I thought that was pretty cool. The other candle part is for Ron. He is going to be having a hip replacement on May 26th. And hopefully all will go well with the surgery. And he will be in significantly less pain. He has a hip fracture, so the only way to fix the problem is a new hip.
Thank you. And I saw Sandra second your candle lighting for the Artemis splashdown, so that is 2 for 1, so to speak. Anyone else move to come and light? Yes, Leora, please.
So this past month, a wise woman told me that grief sits behind a gate, and it opens up, and at the most inopportune moments sometimes, so that you feel. And then you can't feel all the time, so it goes behind the gate again to open when you least expect it. This past 40 days, I've lost 2 men. One was the husband of my favorite cousin, who was a man of grace and courage, and luck that death took him before Lewy body dementia changed him into something he did not want to be. The second was a man who was in my life from the time I was 17, who was my second boyfriend in Israel, who I married for 2 years in the States, who remained my friend for over 50 years, and we would meet for lunch 3 or 4 times a year. A wonderful man way too analytical and logical for me, but kind of taught me that. And he unexpectedly died in his sleep. And it was too late to say the things that I might have wanted to say that I might not have said through the years. Life is slow sometimes. It crawls, especially when we're young. And life speeds along, and we don't know when we will lose the ones that we lose. So these past 40 days have really brought that back to me. And I want to light a candle in honor of Tim Tabernick and Alex Ross, who his family knows as Mark, but in Israel he was Alex. And it will always be Alex to me. So this is for the two of them, two really wonderful men.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to light this candle tonight in the memory of my dad, Garrett Cohn, who a lot of you knew. I just want to speak for a few minutes, if you indulge me. My dad died on April 14th, 2024. Last year, I do not remember Passover at all. I think I just dissed it. But this year, it was acutely aware to me that his yahrzeit is always going to be in the Passover season. And Passover season has so many memories and traditions tied with it. And so I said to myself, I want to find a way to move on with this and enjoy Passover again. It was always such a special holiday for our family, and I want to carry this on. So I pulled out some old recipes, and I spent the day, just me and my memories, cooking. And it was a really, really magical day, and I would suggest it to anyone. It just, alone with my memories, no one can take away your memories. And so it was a beautiful day. And then I wrote something, and if I could just take a minute to read it, if you guys don't mind. I wrote something that I read at the dinner table. Although I did not host, I still read it. Tonight, as we gather around our seder table, I'm holding a mix of emotions. I feel the joy of being together, but also the deep sadness that my parents aren't here with us. But even in that sadness, I'm filled with so much gratitude and love. I carry with me all the memories of the holidays we prepared together, the traditions they taught me, the laughter we shared, and the love that filled our many homes. Yes, they moved a lot. Those moments shaped who I am, and they are something no one can ever take away from me. So tonight, I honor them, not just in memory, but in the way I continue, by being together, by keeping these traditions alive, and by filling this table with warmth, love, and meaning. Thank you. And I emailed Rabbi Adam in the midst of all of that day for comfort. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. I actually was going to say three things. One's already been preempted. But the first one was simply that in less than 2 weeks, it'll be my wife's 81st birthday. And I think that's just wonderful. She's undergone some distress with the broken hips and things, and she's not here tonight because of that. But it's a remarkable thing to me to be married almost 52 years. And it's a blessing, if I can say that as a humanist. So, secondly, as many of you know, we've been working on this bylaws project for like 5 years, and I've been a member of the committee since the beginning, and Andrea and Mike and I finished it off, but other people here contributed as well, and it's very important that everybody's contribution is there. But for me, it's just, I'm so relieved that we finally passed it and we finally did it, and also to me, it's a contribution that I haven't been in the temple as long as many of you have, obviously, and to be able to contribute something like that, I'm very proud of my participation in that. And the third thing is that I remember the Sputnik when it went up in 1957. So the fact that here we are 50 years later and we have the space thing, and I listened to the splashdown as I'm driving to shul tonight and going like, wow, this is just, in the midst of the incredibly incompetency in Washington, this is an amazing achievement.
I'd like to light the next candle for all the women who supported the women's chat group throughout these years. I am leaving as the head of the chat group. Kate Herring volunteered to take over. She's young and a lot younger than I am, and she has a lot of new ideas, and I think this is a good time for me to say thank you to all the women. Thank you, Joyce, for starting the group. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be up here. So again, thank you. Should I take it from here? Maybe I'll take it from here.
This candle is being sent with tons of love for Rhonda Hart. We cannot tell her how much we love her and hope that we will sometime see her soon.
The names mentioned today, who included Bernice Aaron, died on the 23rd, the same day that our granddaughter had a birthday party. And I owe Bernice Aaron a lot, because she brought into the world Joyce Aaron, who became my partner, my love, my buddy for all these many years.
Every dawn becomes a new day, a time to love, a time to cry. Every river knows its own way, and it's the same for you and I. Every heart must have a reason, a winding road, a midnight flight. Freedom, freedom, what we all need is freedom in our hearts. Freedom, freedom, what we all need is freedom in our hearts. We fight and die defending honor, the pride and prejudice we hide, a mother's tears, a father's anger, from trying to stop the pain and lies. So we pretend to look for answers. I blame you and you blame me. All we really need is freedom. Freedom. What we all need is freedom in our hearts. Freedom. Freedom. What we all need is freedom in our hearts. We don't need the pain anymore to move our mountains, to reach our shores. What I have found is the choice I bring. I can do to let freedom ring. Freedom, freedom. What we all need is freedom in our hearts. Freedom, freedom. What we all need is freedom in our hearts.
One of the words for Passover is Zman Chirutenu, the season of our freedom. This year, however, I received a catalog from the Chicago Rabbinical Council. You may or may not know it, but there are actually two rabbinic organizations in the city of Chicago. There's the Chicago Board of Rabbis, of which I'm a member, which welcomes humanistic, reconstructionist, reform, conservative, renewal, and non-denominational liberal rabbis, as well as some modern Orthodox rabbis, are members of the Chicago Board of Rabbis. But the Chicago Rabbinical Council is only Orthodox rabbis. And every year they publish a guide for Passover, which lists all the products that you're allowed or not allowed to use during that 8-day period. Season of our freedom? Or is it a season of rules and regulations? Well, the answer, of course, is yes. It's both. Often in media stories, they'll say, during Passover, Jews don't eat bread, as if all Jews don't eat bread. And it's true that some Jews don't, and there are actually some Jews who don't keep kosher, but do follow some of the Passover rules. In our household, we don't care about the milk and meat rule, but if you want to not have bread on Passover, you're welcome to choose to do that, and some of us do. In Israel, you can actually get a cheeseburger on matzah during Passover at the non-kosher McDonald's, because for some people, the cultural aspect of not eating bread is what connects them to their Jewishness, separate from the rules and regulations of dietary laws. So when you think about what people think Jews do versus what Jews actually do, you need to turn to finding out the truth, your own experience, and also asking lots of other people. I'm curious, how many people here or online keep kosher at home? Now, if you're vegetarian, by default, you're not mixing milk and meat, right? And you're not eating forbidden meat because you're not eating meat at all. So actually, a vegetarian home is kosher. But if you ask American Jews more broadly, it turns out that people that don't keep kosher are the vast majority. 83% of American Jews do not keep kosher. Only 17% said they do. How many of you fast during Yom Kippur, even for part of Yom Kippur? Well, and I don't mean like from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. You know, that's not that hard. A conscious fast. Well, a few do, and that's always been the case at Kol Hadash. Some do and some don't. In the general American Jewish population, 46% report that they fast at least part of Yom Kippur, so it's about a 50-50 chance that you will or won't. How many people here eat traditional Jewish foods? Once in a while, right? Whatever you mean by that. The survey says, do you eat traditional? Okay, so a good number of people will do that. And that's true survey-wise as well. 72% of American Jews reported that they make or eat traditional Jewish foods, whatever they mean by that. So notice, only 46% fast in Yom Kippur, where 72% report they eat Jewish foods. That's why I like to say food is just as Jewish as fasting. How many people here attend synagogue a few times a year or more? Well, you already count, right? You're here, virtually or in person. And again, across the board, about half of American Jews report that they attend synagogue a few times a year or monthly or even weekly. Now, a core question for humanistic Jews when it comes to Jewish traditions like dietary laws or Passover is, why are you doing it? We can't just say, well, this is what we've always done, because we want our Jewish choices to be consistent with our values and what we believe and how we live our lifestyle. We don't want to do one thing in synagogue and something else on the street. We want to be one person everywhere. So if I asked you, did you hold a seder or attend a seder this past Passover? I guess the large majority did. And that's true as well across the Jewish world in America. 62% of all Jews reported attending a Passover Seder. 75% of those who call themselves Jews by religion, who were affiliated with some kind of community, they were part of a Seder. And I would guess most humanistic Jews participate in a Passover Seder. Now, they may not attend Shabbat regularly, but they do celebrate Passover. So I wanted to ask you, why do you think it is that so many American Jews continue to celebrate Passover? And it could be, why do you celebrate Passover? I'll repeat it into the mic for those who are online, or those who are online can unmute or chat.
Like I said, it's those memories and traditions that of people who are no longer with us, they're special, and I don't want to just diss them. I want to carry those on and pass those on to our children and grandchildren.
Okay, so there's positive memories and traditions that you experienced when you were young that you want to pass along to your children, grandchildren, and carry forward. Yes?
For me, who didn't have that as a child, I want to teach that to the next generation. And it's an opportunity, one of the few times in the year, for me to gather my chosen family, those of my heart, together to have a seder, a ritual where they're not telling the basketball scores, and to share something that has been done it connects me to my past.
Okay.
My historical.
So just to repeat, this is a combination of maybe creating a new tradition if you didn't grow up celebrating this or doing it in that way, but also a chance to connect to your ancestral past, what your people did going back centuries, and to create your own community in the present of the people that you value. It may not be your biological family, it may be the family of choice, the people that you've met and love and want to celebrate with together in a ritual way, in a different from ordinary time way where you don't take the phone out of your pocket maybe. But the point is that you feel this connection to your past and the connection to the present with the people you're around. Yes?
The way we do our Judaism, like the come to services, is our way of doing it. Plus, our grandchildren, my daughters are married to Catholics. And it's our way of keeping our children and grandchildren in the Judaism world, Judaism life.
Right. So it's our way of doing Jewish. It's in the home, it's with family, it's once in a while, not every week. You know, that's why I think more people will do the Passover kosher than the kosher, because you don't have to change your dishes necessarily. You don't have to, change your lifestyle. You don't have to change where you're allowed to eat. You can eat anywhere, but once a week you can handle it. So I think that also the fact that it's around food is an attraction for people. Yeah.
Well, in our household, whether the story is true or not, and one of the things we make sure our grandchildren know is that it has some important lessons. The joy of freedom, the burden of suffering, and what people have to do in order to make sure that those values are handed on from generation to generation.
Okay, so there's a value proposition there too to pass forward, but also to celebrate now, of things like freedom, empathy with suffering, the continuity of tradition. These are all important values that are embodied in the ceremony and can be passed along that way too. Yeah.
For me, it's a very important way for me to express my Jewish identity, which is very meaningful.
It's a way of saying, I'm Jewish. I'm here celebrating this holiday, and it's a way of identifying. It's not just doing Jewish, but it's being Jewish and feeling Jewish in that moment. Yeah, Judy.
I think, Steve and I just like going to the Hadash seder just to be with everyone else who goes to the Hadash seder. We just look forward to it.
Yeah, there's a value of connecting with other people, and that's really joyful, and especially people you already know, and sometimes you get to meet new people. I mean, that's the joy of the seder as community, not just as a ritual that you do you could read the Haggadah by yourself, but it wouldn't be the same. So, beyond the food, we do appreciate these values that we talked about. The value of connecting to other people, but also the values of the content of the story. So consider some of these traditional values that you can get from the traditional Haggadah and rituals. There's that passage near the beginning of the Passover Seder, traditionally in Aramaic, called ha-lachma. This is the bread of affliction that we ate in Egypt. Kol dichvin yeteh v'yifsach. All who are hungry may come and eat. You open the doors, you welcome people in to celebrate at the very beginning of the Seder. That's an ethical value to say that anyone is welcome and people who are hungry can eat. The importance of children asking questions. Remember, there's the 4 questions traditionally asked by the youngest student there, or the one overarching question and the 4 sub-questions, if you want to break it down that way. But there's also the idea of the 4 sons, or the 4 children, that represent different children that ask in different ways. And different children need different answers that will strike them appropriately, and they'll understand and they can connect with. And that's why we tell the story. For the child who doesn't even know how to ask, you can't give them details, you have to tell them a story. And that's the way to make it vibrant and living for them. This is a pre-modern multimedia learning experience at the Seder. It uses many senses, many styles of learning. What are some of the sights for those who are visual learners? What are some of the sights that you see at the Seder table? The Seder plate, right? The wine and the special cup for Elijah. You've got candles, right? You have the Haggadot themselves, and those have been illustrated and decorated going back many, many centuries, even before the printing press in Europe.
Matzah everywhere.
You have matzah and crumbs everywhere. Absolutely.
Salt water that's so salty it makes you cry.
Well, that's a taste more than a sight, but you see a bowl of water, right? You've got all this symbolic foods on the plate, that not just the Seder plate itself, but the foods themselves that are meant to spark questioning or at least remind you of elements of the story. What are some of the tastes and smells or touches, those other senses that you see or experience rather at the Passover Seder?
It's very brown. Everything seems so brown. You know what I mean? I know it's supposed to be mortar and everything.
A lot of brown food. Well, that depends on
Brisket, brown fish.
that. Well, you don't. It may be heresy, but you don't have to have brisket at a Passover Seder. You can make your charoset with lots of different materials. It doesn't have to. There's all kinds of Jewish diversity out there on food that can open up opportunities for color diversity, not just flavor diversity.
It's more from your Sephardic, but on our Ashkenazi, we've always eaten that brown.
But we are,
And what about parsley?
Michelle, we are all part of all parts of the Jewish family. You do not have to only do what your grandparents did. You're allowed to make changes. Yeah.
Tom's homemade haroset that will take your head off, especially this year.
Okay. Super sharp horseradish or other kinds of bitter herbs that you might eat. Point out though that the horseradish isn't actually bitter. In theory, it's the lettuce, the chazeret on the Seder plate, that's the bitter piece that you bite the end off. But that's sort of lost in the sands of culinary evolution. Obviously, the distinctive foods, we don't eat matzah. Most of us don't eat matzah any other time of year. There's all the distinctive desserts that come out only for Passover that some people wait all year for. You've got parsley. You actually eat the parsley this time instead of just leaving it to the side. And the salt water. Many Jews from the Middle East will often serve roasted lamb as part of the meal. They don't just have a bone on the plate, they have a full shank of lamb with meat on it as part of their ritual because it's remembering the Passover sacrifice that took place back then. What are things that you hear? What activates your oral processing? Blood, okay. The songs, sometimes unique to that season. Sometimes I'm buying matzah in the store and I start singing Passover songs because it comes in my head.
Different voices at the table reading different passages.
Yes, many families rotate the reading, so different voices are talking at different times. A lot of crunch. Crunch, crunch, crunch of the matzah, for sure. And the plates and the dishes moving around, clearing and resetting and everything else. Yeah.
The kids screaming, looking for the
The voices of children during the seder and certainly in between, like the intermission, looking for the afikomen to finish the seder. Are there particular movements that are part of the seder? Because some people are kinesthetic learners.
In our Seder, we practice an Iranian custom. During Dayanim, people are whipping each other with scallions.
Yes, that is. You not whipping, just sort of gentle lashes. Yeah.
It's a Shiite thing.
Maybe.
Green onions, and people beat their neighbors or walk around doing sword fights.
So, in my father's family, his family came from Aleppo, Syria. At certain points in the Seder, they would actually take the matzah and put it on their shoulders. You remember in the story in Exodus, as they're fleeing Egypt, they put the dough on their backs because they didn't have time to let it rise. So at the part, I think it's during the halachma part, where they're talking about the bread of affliction, they actually put it on their shoulders to reenact that scene. So that's part of it. Another movement, you're dipping the finger in the wine. Well, I'll tell you about that one in a little bit. There's also dipping the salt water. Remember, you dip twice, because you also dip the charoset and the matzah in the maror. How about reclining?
Sometimes we have pillows.
Yeah, so the reclining or the relaxing is also supposed to be part of the ritual. We even ask one of the 4 questions about that. You've got opening the door. You get up and open the door at one point, and there's looking for the afikomen. The kids are encouraged to get up and move around as part of the Seder. Well, sometimes it helps. Sometimes it helps to define the space in which the afikomen may be sought. Now, I do want to point out that as humanistic Jews, as humanistic Jews, we understand that Jewish values evolve over time. And some of what we emphasize today is very different from what our ancestors would emphasize. So, for example, when we talk about the plagues in Egypt, we empathize with the suffering of the Egyptians, the destroying of Pharaoh's army. We don't celebrate. We, lower the amount of wine in the glass by removing wine drops. That's not an ancient tradition. That only goes back about 150 years, when people started to care about what happened to the Egyptians. Before that, it was celebrating what happened to the Egyptians because they deserved it. If you read the traditional Haggadah text, it says, how can we know that the Egyptians were struck with 50 more plagues at the Red Sea? And then another rabbi says, how can we know they were struck with 100 more plagues at the Red Sea? And 250 plagues. It's like a bidding war. And at the end, they say, how wonderful are you, God, to have done such wonderful things for us in afflicting them with all those plagues. That was the ethos of the traditional Haggadah. It was not empathy for the Egyptians. The dripping of the wine to reduce, that's something that appears first in Haggadot maybe 150 years ago. So it's not an ancient approach. It's still part of the ritual telling the story of the plagues, but the meaning of those plagues has shifted as our values have shifted. Do we celebrate heroes like Moses or Miriam? In our Haggadahs, yes. But in the traditional Haggadah, Moses does not appear at all. He's in the book of Exodus and telling the story, but in the Haggadah's version of the story, he's a bit player. He's just the assistant, you see. The real power is the one who actually parts the waters, who strikes Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. It's God. That's the hero, not Moses. So our Haggadah is going to emphasize what people can do in a way that the traditional one did not. There's a whole second half of the Haggadah that many families, even using traditional Haggadah, never discover because after eating, they're done. But after the meal, there's a whole section called Barech, which is the blessing after meals, and Hallel, the praise. The praise of whom? The praise of God. And it's praise, praise, praise. And some please, 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 and then more praise, praise, praise. You hope for the rebuilding of the temple. Yivnei Beito Bekarov, may his house be rebuilt. Which house? The Jerusalem temple with the animal sacrifices. Why do we talk about Elijah in the latter part of the Seder? Because Elijah is the precursor for the Messiah. And the Messiah will rescue the Jews from their status of being slaves in diaspora and bring them home to their homeland. The last line in the traditional Haggadah, next year in Jerusalem, and not via El Al, via messianic redemption. That's why you want Elijah there. He's not Santa Claus. He's the harbinger of the Messiah. Now, why do we open the door during the Seder? Today, we welcome the stranger, or we imagine Elijah has found his way in and sitting at the spot that we've set for him. Why do we pour that fifth cup for Elijah? It's actually a rabbinic debate. Do you need to have 4 cups of wine or 5 cups of wine during the Passover Seder? Well, the rabbis resolved that by pouring 5 cups but only drinking 4 cups. That's really the origin for Elijah's cup. But in the traditional Haggadah, when you open that door for Elijah, here is the text that you read. Pour out your anger upon the nations that do not know you, and upon the kingdoms that do not call upon your name. Since they have consumed Yaakov, the people of Israel, and laid waste to his habitation, pour out your fury upon them, and the fierceness of your anger shall reach them. You shall pursue them with anger and eradicate them from under the skies of the Lord. That's brotherhood, right? Good old-fashioned brotherhood. You open the door, you call out for revenge just like you did before, and then you slam the door again. Now remember, Passover season is also Easter season, most times in most places. And Easter season was not a safe time for the Jews in Christian Europe, because the story of the death of Jesus was often told in a way that blamed the Jews. So pogroms would follow, and so you can understand the animosity and the hatred, but we don't necessarily emphasize that in our celebration of Passover today. You see, a humanistic Passover has some shifts. We shift from focusing on God to focusing on people. We shift from the closed perspective of, is it good for the Jews and to hell with anybody else, to the open perspective of how can the Jewish experience enhance humanity and enhance our humanity. The central character of our Passover is not the God character, it's the Jewish people. And the central message is not chosenness, but universal values to be learned from this particular myth and experience. We're not grateful for divine liberation. We're inspired to auto-emancipation. One of the earliest pamphlets describing a modern Zionist movement by Leo Pinsker was called Auto-Emancipation. Free yourself. And so once we are free, we're not done. Now we can use our freedom to help free others. In a humanistic Seder, rather than celebrate Egyptian suffering, plagues are expanded and expand us to feel empathy for all human suffering, for our Holocaust and for other mass death. If we have seen suffering, we have learned how to fight it. And we also address the plagues in our own day, not as cosmic punishments, but as challenges that demand human solutions. And perhaps most important, and we heard this alluded to earlier tonight, Passover teaches us the paradox of Judaism, a tradition that changes. There are additions to the Haggadah, like Echad Miyodea, who knows one, and Chad Gadya, the little goat that has a really bad life. but it's supposed to be a metaphor for the Hebrews and their experience through history, facing death after death after death and suffering after suffering, and yet some redemption to be promised at the end. That was added later to the Haggadah. It's not part of the version in the Mishnah or the Talmud. It shows you that Jewish tradition is a tradition that changes and evolves. Even the 4 questions were changed. We didn't used to ask, why do I recline? We used to ask, why on this night do we only eat roasted meat? Well, when we had a temple in Jerusalem and we had a sacrifice, we ate the meat. With no more temple and no more sacrifice, that question didn't mean anything anymore. So we made a new question that replaced the old question. The last shift is from myth to history. As we heard from someone earlier, the Exodus is an important story, even if it didn't actually happen. It's not supported by archaeological evidence, or for that matter, by common sense. I mean, 600,000 men would be like 2 million people leaving, and they didn't break enough pots to leave evidence in the desert, let alone records in Egypt. And the proportion of the global population at that time would have been unbelievable. I mean, it's just not plausible. But celebrating Passover and telling the story as a story has been the real Jewish experience for almost 2,500 years, if not more. And today, for some people, reading Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation or singing Go Down Moses from the Negro spiritual tradition to connect with the American slavery message and experience, recalling the Warsaw Ghetto Rebellion started on the first night of Passover in 1943. Exodus may be a myth, but celebrating Passover over the centuries is the real Jewish experience. When our children ask questions, and when we pay them off to get the afikomen back so we can end the seder, we're not just giving them information and a $5 bill. We're giving them memories. We're giving them positive emotional experiences. And that is perhaps the most valuable value that Passover has to offer. Well, again, I want to thank our Oneg hosts this evening, our women's group, Women's Chat, and the Canasta Group. I want to thank Ellen Apley for providing our music tonight as well. Hopefully you'll stay and enjoy our Oneg. Those who are online, you'll have to auto-Oneg, self-emancipate yourself. We'll do our closing song, and then I'm happy to stay and chat some more. And of course, we'll be around to celebrate Shabbat together with the Oneg, the joy of Shabbat. On the last page of your service, on the inside of the back cover, it is our Peace Be With You, originally written by a Unitarian songwriter and then adapted by our own Rabbi Emeritus, Daniel Friedman.
Peace be with you wherever you go. Peace be with you whatever you do. Peace be with you till we meet again. Peace be with you, my friend. Love be with you wherever you go. Love be with you whatever you do. Love be with you till we meet again. Love be with you, my friend. Joy be with you wherever you go. Joy be with you whatever you do. Joy be with you till we meet again. Joy be with you, my friend. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom.
Once again, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, and please wish Shabbat Shalom to the people near you.